The rain had been falling for 3 days straight, turning Boston streets into rivers of gray slush that soaked through my only pair of decent boots. I stood outside the brownstone on Beacon Hill, clutching my phone with its cracked screen, double-checking the address. This was it. My last chance before the eviction notice became reality. The building rose before me like something out of a dream I couldn't afford to have. Red brick, pristine white trim, windows that actually looked like they closed properly. I'd responded to the listing at 2 a.m, desperate and half asleep, barely processing that the rent was almost too good to be true. The owner had messaged back within minutes. Tomorrow, 3 p.m. Come alone. That last part should have warned me, but when you're 26, working double shifts at a diner that smells permanently of burnt coffee and defeat, and your landlord has started leaving notes that aren't quite threats, but aren't quite legal either, you ignore the warning signs. I climbed the steps, each one pristine, not a cigarette butt or discarded wrapper in sight. My hand trembled as I reached for the buzzer. Before I could press it, the door opened. He wasn't what I expected. Foreign owner, the listing had said. I'd pictured someone older, maybe wearing a suit that had seen better days, eager to rent out a property, and return to whatever country had grown too expensive or complicated. Instead, I found myself staring at a man who couldn't have been much older than 30, dressed in black from head to toe. A sweater that probably cost more than my monthly salary, perfectly tailored trousers, shoes so polished I could see the gray sky reflected in them. But it was his face that made my breath catch. Sharp jawline, dark eyes that seemed to catalog every detail of my appearance in a single sweep, black hair pushed back carelessly in a way that suggested he didn't think about his looks, because he'd never had to. He was beautiful in that dangerous way that makes smart girls stupid. You're late. His accent wrapped around the words. Italian, I thought, though I'd never been anywhere to know for sure. I'm not... I checked my phone. 3:02 p.m. 2 minutes isn't... In my world, 2 minutes means you're already dead. He stepped aside, gesturing me in with a movement that was somehow both casual and commanding. Come. I should have left. Every instinct I'd developed from 26 years of being invisible, of learning to read danger in men's eyes, of knowing when a situation was about to turn bad, all of it screamed at me to run. But the rain was soaking through my jacket now, and I could see into the foyer, all marble floors and soft lighting, and I was so tired of being cold. I stepped inside. The door closed behind me with a sound like a vault ceiling. The warmth hit me immediately, along with a scent I couldn't quite place. Expensive cologne, something with cedar and smoke, and underneath it all, a metallic tang that made the hair on my neck stand up. 3rd floor, he said, moving past me toward the stairs. He didn't look back to see if I followed. Men like him never did. They expected obedience like they expected the sun to rise. I followed, because what else could I do? My footsteps echoed on the marble, while his made almost no sound. I noticed things as we climbed. The cameras in every corner, small and discreet but definitely there. The way the walls were thick, too thick, the kind that would swallow screams. A door on the 2nd floor landing, slightly ajar, and through it I glimpsed a man, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing sunglasses indoors, and unmistakably armed. My heart started hammering. This wasn't right. None of this was right. The apartment, the man ahead of me said, as if sensing my hesitation, was my mother's. She passed last year. I haven't had the heart to empty it. His voice carried no emotion, just stated facts like reading a grocery list. You need a place. I need it occupied. This works. We reached the 3rd floor. He pulled out a key, old-fashioned brass, the kind you don't see anymore, and unlocked a heavy wooden door. It swung open silently, well-oiled hinges, and he stepped aside. Look around. Tell me if it suits you. I edged past him, hyper-aware of the space between us, or lack thereof. He smelled like winter nights and expensive whiskey, and something in my body responded to his proximity in a way that terrified me more than the gun I'd seen on the 2nd floor. The apartment was perfect, too perfect. Hardwood floors that gleamed, crown molding, a kitchen with appliances that looked like they'd never been used, large windows overlooking the street, with curtains that were somehow both elegant and heavy enough to block out any prying eyes. The furniture was still there, A sofa in soft gray, a dining table that could seat 6, bookshelves lined with volumes in Italian. "I don't understand," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "The listing said $800 a month. This place is worth—" "I know what it's worth." He leaned against the doorframe, watching me with those dark eyes that missed nothing. "I asked what you think, if it suits you." I turned slowly, taking it in. A bedroom visible through an open door. A bed already made with white linens. A bathroom with a clawfoot tub. Windows that closed. Walls that held heat. Space that wasn't infested with roaches or black mold. It was everything I'd dreamed of during those long nights serving coffee to men who didn't see me, who left quarter tips and thought they were generous. "It's perfect," I breathed. "Then it's yours." Something in his tone made me turn back to him. He hadn't moved, but the air in the room had changed, grown charged with something I couldn't name. "Just like that?" I asked. "Don't you want to see pay stubs? References?" "I mean, I have them, but they're not. I work at a diner, and my last landlord, he's not going to—" "I don't care about any of that." He pushed off the doorframe, walking toward me with steps that were too quiet, too controlled, a predator's walk. "I care that you show up when you say you will. That you keep my mother's things safe. That you don't ask questions you don't want answered." He stopped 3 feet away, close enough that I could see flecks of gold in his dark eyes, close enough to notice a small scar cutting through his left eyebrow. "Can you do that, Elena?" Ice flooded my veins. "I never told you my name." His smile was slow, dangerous, the kind that didn't reach his eyes. "You filled out the application online. Remember?" I hadn't. The listing had just asked for a phone number. I'd responded through the app's messaging system. There was no way he could know my name unless— "Who are you?" The question came out steadier than I felt. "Someone who owns this building. Someone who needs a tenant. Someone who doesn't like to repeat himself." He reached into his pocket and I flinched. Actually flinched. My body remembering every news story about girls who went to see apartments and never came home. But he just pulled out a lease agreement, folded neatly, and held it out to me. "Sign it. Move in tomorrow. Or don't, and go back to whatever hole you've been living in." His voice remained even, almost bored. "Your choice. You have 30 seconds to decide." My hands were shaking as I took the papers. The lease was simple. Too simple. 1 year, $800 a month. No security deposit required. Tenant agrees to maintain property. Landlord reserves right to access apartment with 24 hours notice. Standard stuff, except for the last clause, printed in smaller font. Tenant acknowledges the confidential nature of the premises and agrees to maintain complete discretion regarding the property, its owner, and any activities observed herein. "What kind of activities?" I asked. 20 seconds. This clause. 15. I just need to understand. 10. He checked his watch, a movement so casual it was almost insulting. 9, 8, wait. 7, 6. My mind raced. The eviction notice, the diner manager who'd cut my hours, the collection agency calling about my mother's medical bills I'd inherited along with her debt and her disappointment, the apartment behind me, warm and safe and impossible. 5, 4. I grabbed the pen he offered. When had he pulled that out? And signed my name on the line. My handwriting looked jagged, desperate. He took the lease back, glanced at my signature, and nodded once. "Welcome home, Elena. When can I move in?" "Tonight, if you want. I'll have someone bring up boxes." He moved toward the door, then paused. "One more thing." I waited, my heart still racing. You see something you're not supposed to see. You forget it immediately. You hear something you're not supposed to hear. It never happened. Someone asks you questions about this building or about me. You know nothing. His eyes locked onto mine, and I felt pinned, like a butterfly on a collector's board. "Break these rules, and the lease is void. Understand?" I nodded, not trusting my voice. "Good girl." He said it softly, almost tenderly, and somehow that was worse than any threat. "I'll have your keys ready in an hour. Don't wander around the building until then. Stay here." He left, closing the door behind him with a soft click. I stood frozen in the center of the perfect apartment, listening to his footsteps fade down the stairs, listening to my own heartbeat thunder in my ears. Through the window, I could see the street below, rain still falling, people hurrying past with umbrellas. Normal people, living normal lives. People who probably didn't sign leases with mysterious foreign landlords who knew their names without being told. I walked to the bedroom, legs unsteady, sat on the edge of the bed. The mattress was soft, expensive, nothing like the futon I'd been sleeping on that sagged in the middle and smelled faintly of the previous tenant's cigarettes. That's when I noticed it, on the nightstand, so subtle I almost missed it. A framed photograph, old, the colors slightly faded. A woman with dark hair and kind eyes, holding a little boy who couldn't have been more than 4 or 5. They were smiling, genuinely smiling, standing in front of this very building. I picked up the frame with trembling fingers. The boy had the same eyes as the man who'd just left, the same sharp features that would grow into dangerous beauty. Behind the photo, hidden where it would only be visible if you moved the frame, was something else. A card, thick stock, expensive. I pulled it out, printed in gold lettering. Alessandro Vitale, private acquisitions. No phone number, no address. Just a name and 2 words that could mean anything. I turned the card over. Someone had written on the back in neat script, "Collect what's owed. Always." My hands were shaking so badly I nearly dropped it. I shoved the card back exactly where I'd found it, replaced the photograph, and stood up so fast the room spun. This was wrong. This was so deeply, terribly wrong. But I'd signed the lease, and I had nowhere else to go. I didn't sleep that night. How could I? I'd moved my pathetic collection of belongings. 2 duffel bags, a box of books with water-damaged covers, a lamp I'd rescued from a curb, into an apartment that belonged to a man whose business card promised violence in elegant script. The keys had appeared exactly 1 hour after he'd left, slipped under the door in a manila envelope with no note, no explanation, just 3 brass keys and a small remote for what I assumed was the building's entrance. By midnight, I'd unpacked everything. By 2 a.m., I'd cleaned the already spotless kitchen. By 4, I was sitting on the gray sofa, wrapped in my threadbare blanket, staring at the door and wondering what I'd walked into. The sun rose slowly over Boston, painting the brownstones across the street in shades of gold and amber. I watched it through those expensive curtains, exhausted but too wired to sleep. My shift at the diner started at 7. I needed to shower, change, pretend yesterday hadn't happened. The water in the clawfoot tub ran hot immediately. No sputtering, no waiting for rust-colored liquid to clear. I stood under the spray until my skin turned pink, trying to wash away the feeling of Alessandro Vitale's eyes cataloging every inch of me, the way he'd said "good girl" like he was tasting the words, the casual countdown that had stripped away any illusion of choice. I dressed in my uniform, black pants worn thin at the knees, white shirt that had been washed so many times it was gray, sneakers with soles that squeaked on wet floors. Looking at myself in the bathroom mirror, I seemed even more out of place than yesterday. This apartment, with its crown molding and hardwood floors, wasn't meant for girls like me. The diner was a 20-minute walk, enough time to convince myself that everything was fine. So what if my landlord was mysterious? Boston was full of wealthy foreigners with more money than sense, buying up properties and forgetting about them. The photograph of his mother explained the furnished apartment, the too low rent. He was sentimental, grieving. That was all. I almost believed it. Marco's diner occupied a corner in South Boston that smelled like grease and broken dreams. I'd been working there for 3 years, ever since I'd dropped out of community college to take care of my mother. She'd been sick for 2 years before she died, and even after the funeral, the bills kept coming. The debt collectors didn't care that she was gone. Someone had to pay. "You look like hell," Rita said when I pushed through the door. She was the other morning waitress, 50-something with dyed red hair and a voice ruined by 30 years of cigarettes. Didn't sleep. I tied my apron, grabbed my order pad from behind the counter. "New place?" She'd been the only person I'd told about the eviction notice, mainly because she'd caught me crying in the walk-in freezer on my break. "Yeah, Moved in last night. That's good, honey. Real good. She squeezed my shoulder, and the simple kindness of it nearly broke me. Table 4 needs coffee. Guy's been sitting there for 20 minutes, hasn't ordered yet. I grabbed the coffee pot and turned toward table 4, my customer service smile already in place. The smile died when I saw who was sitting there. Not Alessandro, but close enough to make my blood run cold. The man was younger, maybe 25, with the same sharp features, the same careful way of holding himself. He wore a suit that cost more than I made in 6 months, and he was watching me with eyes that held no warmth whatsoever. Coffee? My voice came out steadier than I felt. Elena Torres. He said my full name like he was checking items off a list. 26 years old. Works at Marco's Diner, morning shift. Mother deceased, father unknown. No siblings. No boyfriend. He paused, letting each fact land like a small knife. Currently residing at 247 Beacon Hill, apartment 3B. The coffee pot nearly slipped from my hands. I set it down on the table with a clatter that made the elderly couple at table 6 look over. Who are you? My name is Luca. I work for Alessandro. He gestured to the empty seat across from him. Sit. I'm working. No, you're not. I bought this establishment 30 minutes ago. Your manager is in the back, counting the money I gave him to close early. Everyone else has been sent home. His smile was all teeth, no humor. Sit. Down. I looked around the diner. He was right. The other tables were empty. Rita was gone. And through the window to the kitchen, I could see Marco holding an envelope thick with cash, staring at it like he couldn't quite believe what was happening. My legs felt like water as I sank into the seat across from Luca. Good, he said, as if I'd passed some small test. Alessandro wants to make sure you understand the situation. What situation? My hands were shaking, so I clasped them in my lap where he couldn't see. You live in his building now, under his protection. That means certain adjustments to your life. He pulled out a phone, expensive, encrypted probably, and slid it across the table. Your new phone. Your old number has been transferred. There's one contact programmed in. You need anything, you call. Someone bothers you, you call. You see something unusual, you call. I stared at the phone like it was a snake. I don't want... It's not a request. Luca's voice remained pleasant, conversational, which somehow made it worse. Alessandro takes care of what's his. Right now, whether you like it or not, you're his. His tenant, his responsibility, his concern. I'm not his anything. I just rent an apartment. No. Luca leaned forward, and I caught a glimpse of a shoulder holster under his jacket. You live in a building he owns, in an apartment his mother died in, because he decided you were worthy of it. Do you understand how rare that is? How many people would kill for that kind of attention? The words hung in the air between us, heavy with implications I didn't want to examine. There are rules, Luca continued. You don't bring anyone to the apartment without permission. You don't discuss Alessandro or the building with anyone. You maintain your normal routine, but you're aware. Always aware. He pushed the phone closer. Take it. I picked it up with numb fingers. The screen lit up at my touch, already unlocked. There was indeed one contact, AV. He's watching you, Luca said softly. Even when you can't see him, he's watching, making sure you're safe, making sure you're alone. That's not protection, I whispered. That's love. The word came from behind me, accented and dark. Alessandro's voice. I spun in my seat. He stood just inside the diner's entrance, and I hadn't heard the door open, hadn't heard him approach. He wore different clothes today, charcoal suit, black shirt with no tie, and he looked like sin personified. Like every warning your mother gives you about dangerous men. Luca, leave us. The younger man stood immediately, buttoning his jacket with practiced efficiency. He leaned down to whisper in my ear as he passed. Don't make him repeat himself, ever. Then he was gone, and it was just Alessandro and me in the empty diner, with morning light streaming through grease-stained windows and the smell of burnt coffee thick in the air. Alessandro slid into the seat Luca had vacated, up close, in better light. I could see details I'd missed yesterday. A small scar on his neck, partially hidden by his collar, dark circles under his eyes suggesting he hadn't slept either, hands that were elegant but marked, old scars across the knuckles, The hands of someone who'd done violence personally, not just ordered it from a distance. "You're afraid of me," he observed. It wasn't a question, so I didn't answer. Good. Fear keeps you careful. Careful keeps you alive. He reached across the table, and I forced myself not to flinch as he picked up the coffee pot I'd abandoned. He poured himself a cup with movements that were too graceful, too controlled. "But I don't want you terrified. That's not useful to either of us." "What do you want?" The question came out braver than I felt. His eyes met mine over the rim of the coffee cup. "Honestly, I'm still figuring that out." "That's not an answer." "No," he agreed. "It's not." He set down the cup. "Tell me about your mother." The sudden shift made my head spin. "What?" "Your mother. How did she die? Cancer." The word still hurt, even 2 years later. "Breast cancer. Stage 4 by the time they caught it. She lasted 18 months, and you took care of her. Someone had to. Your father? Gone before I was born. My mother never talked about him." I wrapped my arms around myself, suddenly cold despite the diner's warmth. "Why does any of this matter?" Alessandro studied me in silence for a long moment. "My mother died in that apartment, in the bed you slept in last night. Cancer also. The air left my lungs in a rush." "You should have told me." "Why? Would it have changed your decision?" I thought about the eviction notice, the debt, the desperation. "No," I admitted quietly. "Then why does it matter?" He stood abruptly, pulling out his wallet. He dropped several $100 bills on the table, far more than a cup of coffee cost. "Take the day off. Go home. Rest. Someone will bring groceries this afternoon. You didn't have any food." "How do you—" I stopped. Of course he knew. He probably knew everything, what I ate, how much I slept, every sad detail of my broke, pathetic existence. "Elena." He said my name like a caress and a command all at once. "I need you to understand something very clearly. Men are going to notice you now, men who wouldn't have looked at you twice before, because you were nobody, nothing, invisible. But now you live in my building. You carry a phone with my number. That makes you interesting. That makes you valuable." He leaned down, bringing his face level with mine. His cologne, cedar and smoke, washed over me, and my treacherous body responded to his proximity with a flush of heat I desperately tried to ignore. "If any man approaches you, touches you, makes you uncomfortable, I need to know immediately. Not because I'm controlling, because I'm keeping you alive. Do you understand the difference?" "No," I breathed. His smile was sharp enough to cut. "You will." He straightened, adjusting his cuffs with casual precision. "Go home. Lock the door. Don't open it for anyone except the grocery delivery. His name is Marcus. He'll knock 3 times. I'll see you soon." "When?" The question surprised us both. Alessandro paused halfway to the door, turning back with something almost like curiosity in his dark eyes. "Missing me already, Kara?" Heat flooded my cheeks. "No, I need to know when you're coming by. The lease says 24 hours notice for—" "The lease says what I tell it to say." He pulled on leather gloves, each finger smoothed with practiced care. "But if it makes you feel better, I'll knock. 3 times like Marcus. So you know it's safe. And if it's not you, then don't open the door." He reached for the handle, then stopped. "One more thing, Elena. The photograph on the nightstand, I noticed you moved it last night. Put it back exactly as it was." My blood turned to ice. "How did you—" "Cameras, the whole building. I told you, I'm always watching." His expression softened slightly. "Not to control you, to protect you. Learn the difference." Then he was gone, leaving me alone in an empty diner with a pile of cash on the table and a new phone burning a hole in my pocket. 3 weeks passed in a strange dream, where nothing felt real, and everything felt too real all at once. I kept working at the diner, though Marco had received enough money from Alessandro's purchase that he'd stopped scheduling me for the worst shifts. Rita asked questions I couldn't answer, her eyes worried, maternal. I told her everything was fine, that my new place was great, that the landlord was hardly ever around. All lies. Alessandro was everywhere, even when he wasn't there. The groceries appeared like clockwork. Marcus with his 3-knock signal, always polite, always leaving before I could ask questions. The phone stayed silent mostly, but sometimes late at night it would buzz with a single message. Lock your windows. Storm coming. Or, don't take the red line home tomorrow. Construction accident. The construction accident made the news 2 days later. Scaffolding collapse. 3 people injured. I stared at my phone screen, at the message sent 48 hours before it happened, and felt my understanding of reality shift sideways. He knew things, controlled things, and somehow, impossibly, I was under that umbrella of control now. I saw him exactly 4 times in those 3 weeks. Once from my window, getting into a black SUV with tinted windows, Luca at his side. Once at the diner, sitting in the corner booth, not eating, just watching me work with those dark eyes that never seemed to blink. Once in the building's hallway when I was coming home late, and he was leaving apartment 2B, the one with the armed man. Our eyes met for half a second before he nodded once and disappeared down the stairs. The 4th time changed everything. It was a Tuesday night, October bleeding into November, the kind of cold that gets into your bones and stays there. I'd worked a double because Rita's daughter was sick, and I needed the money anyway. My feet ached, my back screamed, and all I wanted was that claw foot tub and 8 hours of unconsciousness. I climbed the stairs to the 3rd floor, keys in hand, already mentally cataloging which leftovers Marcus had brought that I could eat cold because cooking required energy I didn't have. That's when I heard it. Voices from the 2nd floor, angry, speaking rapid Italian. I should have kept walking. Should have remembered Alessandro's warnings about seeing things, hearing things, forgetting immediately. But one voice rose above the others. Familiar, not a negotiation, Franco. You stole from me. From my family. There's only one payment for that, Alessandro. His accent thicker when he was angry, the words sharp as broken glass. Please, I can explain. Another voice. Desperate. Pleading. A sound. Wet and thick. A body hitting the floor. Silence. I stood frozen on the landing between floors, my heart hammering so hard I thought it might burst from my chest. The keys in my hand clinked together softly, and that tiny sound, barely audible, was somehow loud as a gunshot in the sudden quiet. Luca. Alessandro's voice, calm now. Controlled. We have a witness. Footsteps. Coming toward the stairs. Coming toward me. I ran. My apartment door had never seemed so far away. My hands shook so badly I dropped the keys once, twice. Finally got them in the lock as footsteps pounded up the stairs behind me. I shoved through, slammed the door, threw the deadbolt. It wouldn't matter. I knew that. If Alessandro wanted in, a locked door wouldn't stop him. I backed away from the door, staring at it, waiting. My phone, the one he'd given me, sat on the kitchen counter, silent and accusatory. I should call someone. The police. Anyone. But I'd signed a lease. Agreed to discretion. Promised to forget things I wasn't supposed to see. And I'd seen a man die. 3 knocks on the door, perfectly spaced. His signal. Elena. His voice through the wood, surprisingly gentle. Open the door. No. It came out as a whisper. I'm not asking. A pause. You have 3 seconds. Don't make me break this door. It was my mother's favorite. My hands moved without conscious thought, fingers turning the deadbolt, pulling the door open. Better to face him than to have him break in. Better to maintain some illusion of choice. Alessandro stood in the hallway, and he looked exactly the same as always. Perfectly pressed suit, not a hair out of place, expensive cologne and quiet menace. Except his hands. His hands were cleaned, but I could see it in the cuticles, under the nails, traces of red he'd missed. Inside. He stepped forward, and I stumbled back, letting him in. He closed the door behind him with a soft click. Sit down before you fall down. You're hyperventilating. I was. The room spun, tilting sideways. My legs gave out, and suddenly I was on the sofa, head between my knees, trying to remember how to breathe. Something cool pressed against the back of my neck. His hand, surprisingly gentle. Slow breaths. In through your nose, out through your mouth. That's good. Keep going. You killed him, I gasped. Yes. The casual admission made it worse somehow. No denial, no excuse. Just yes, like I'd asked if he took sugar in his coffee. Franco Marchetti. Alessandro removed his hand, moving to sit in the chair across from me. He unbuttoned his jacket, getting comfortable. He worked for my organization for 6 years. 3 months ago, he started skimming, small amounts at first, then larger. When we confronted him, he ran. Cost us considerable time and resources to find him. So you murdered him. I executed him. He said it like there was a difference, according to the rules he agreed to when he joined my family, rules he broke. I looked up at him then, this beautiful monster in my apartment, and saw no regret in his eyes, no guilt. Just cold calculation and something else. Concern maybe, but not for Franco. You're going to kill me too. It wasn't a question. No. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, eyes locked on mine. You're going to forget what you heard, what you think you heard, because you're smart, Elena. Smart enough to understand that some things are better left unknown. I can't just... Yes, you can. His voice hardened. You can, and you will, because the alternative is, I can't protect you anymore. And believe me, Kara, you need my protection. The people who would come after you if they knew you witnessed Franco's execution, they make me look like a saint. I don't understand any of this. My voice broke. I just wanted an apartment, somewhere safe, somewhere warm, and I gave you that. He stood abruptly, moving to the window, looking out at the Boston night. This building is the safest place in the city. No one touches what's mine, no one. I'm not yours. He turned, and the look in his eyes made my breath catch. Aren't you? You live in my building. Eat food I provide. Carry my number in your pocket. You're protected by my name, whether you claim it or not. That's not the same as belonging to someone. No? He crossed the room in 3 strides, suddenly close enough that I had to tilt my head back to maintain eye contact. Then tell me, Elena, why haven't you run? You're clever enough to find another place, brave enough to start over. But you stay. Even knowing what I am, especially knowing what I am, I have nowhere else to go. Lie. He said it softly, almost tenderly. You stay because you feel safer with a monster you can see than the ones you can't. You stay because every other man in your life made you invisible, and I see you. Every moment of every day, I see you. His hand came up, fingers ghosting along my jaw, not quite touching. You stay because you're smart enough to know that this, he gestured between us, whatever this is, it's the only thing keeping you alive. I wanted to deny it, wanted to push him away, call him crazy, run screaming into the night, but my body betrayed me, leaning into that almost touch, craving the contact even as my brain screamed warnings. What do you want from me? I whispered. Right now? I want you to forget Franco. I want you to go to bed and sleep. Tomorrow you wake up. Go to work. Live your life. His thumb traced my lower lip, finally making contact, and I shivered. Long term? I'm still deciding. But I promise you this, Elena. Whatever I decide, you'll be safe. Always. How can you promise that? Because anyone who tries to hurt you will die screaming. He said it like a vow, like a prayer. I may be a monster, but I protect what's mine with everything I have. Stop saying that. I'm not... He kissed me. Not gentle, not asking permission. His mouth claimed mine with the same certainty he did everything else, his hand sliding into my hair, holding me in place, and I should have fought. Should have pushed him away. Should have done anything except kiss him back. But I did. God help me. I kissed him back, opening for him when his tongue traced my lower lip, making a sound that was half protest and half surrender, when his free hand found my waist, pulled me closer. He tasted like expensive whiskey and danger, and my body responded to him in ways that terrified me. Heat pooled low in my belly, my hands fisting in his jacket, and for a moment, one insane moment, I forgot about Franco, forgot about the blood, forgot about everything except the feeling of being consumed by this beautiful, terrible man. Alessandro pulled back first, breathing hard, his eyes dark with something that wasn't quite desire, and wasn't quite possession, but lived somewhere in between. Go to bed, Elena. His voice was rough, strained. Before I do something we're both not ready for. I don't. Now. Not loud, but commanding. Lock the door behind me. Don't open it again tonight. He released me, stepping back, adjusting his jacket with hands that weren't quite steady. At the door he paused. The phone. Keep it close. Always. If anything feels wrong, anything at all, you call me immediately. Understand? I nodded, not trusting my voice. Good girl. There it was again. Those two words that made me feel owned and safe all at once. Sleep well, Kara. I'll see you tomorrow. Tomorrow? I'm having dinner sent up, 7 p.m. You'll eat with me. Not a question. Never a question with him. I work until 8. Not tomorrow. I already spoke to Marco. You have the evening off. He opened the door, paused. Wear something nice. Not for me, for yourself. You deserve to feel beautiful. Then he was gone, leaving me alone with the taste of him still on my lips, and 100 questions I didn't dare ask. I locked the door, checked it twice. Then I walked to the bathroom on shaking legs and stared at myself in the mirror. My lips were swollen from his kiss, my eyes too bright, my cheeks flushed. I looked like a different person. I looked like someone who'd just been claimed. The phone buzzed. I grabbed it with trembling hands. Sleep, Elena. I'm right downstairs if you need me. I typed back before I could stop myself. Are you staying there tonight? His response came immediately. I'm staying until I know you're safe. So yes. I should have been horrified. Should have felt trapped, monitored, controlled. Instead, I felt something else entirely. Something warm and dangerous that wrapped around my chest like a chain made of silk. I climbed into bed fully clothed, too exhausted to change, and fell asleep with my phone clutched in my hand, and the ghost of Alessandro's kiss burning on my lips. I woke to sunlight streaming through the windows and the smell of coffee. For a moment, still half asleep, I thought I'd dreamed it all. Franco's execution, Alessandro's kiss, the promise of dinner tonight. Then I saw the coffee cup sitting on my nightstand, still steaming, and reality crashed back with the weight of a physical blow. He'd been in my room, while I slept, had stood close enough to set down that cup without waking me. My hands shook as I reached for it. Expensive china, delicate handle, the kind of cup that probably cost more than my weekly paycheck. The coffee was perfect. Cream, no sugar. Exactly how I took it. Because of course he knew. He knew everything. A note lay beside the saucer, heavy cardstock in masculine script. Dinner at 7. Don't be late. I should have been terrified. Should have packed my 2 duffel bags and run as far as my savings could take me. Instead, I sipped the coffee and thought about what I had in my closet that qualified as something nice. The answer was nothing. Everything I owned was worn, faded, purchased from thrift stores or clearance racks. The nicest thing I had was a black dress I'd bought for my mother's funeral, and I'd rather die than wear that. The phone buzzed. I grabbed it instinctively now, Pavlovian response to the sound. There's a box outside your door. It's for tonight. Don't argue. I set down the coffee cup and padded to the door, unlocking it carefully, peering out. Sure enough, a large white box sat on the welcome mat, tied with a black ribbon. No name, no card, just the box. I brought it inside, my heart hammering. I shouldn't open it. Accepting gifts from him felt like crossing a line I couldn't uncross. But my fingers were already pulling the ribbon, lifting the lid, tissue paper, expensive and crisp. I pushed it aside and stopped breathing. A dress. Deep emerald green silk that caught the light. Simple cut, but exquisitely made. I pulled it from the box with reverent hands. No tags, which meant custom, which meant he'd somehow known my measurements. Below it, wrapped separately. Black heels, delicate and understated. A small velvet box that I was afraid to open. I opened it anyway. Earrings. Emerald studs that matched the dress, set in what looked suspiciously like real gold. They were beautiful. Terrifying. The kind of gift that came with expectations I wasn't ready to examine. My phone buzzed again. The green matches your eyes. I noticed them the first day we met. I typed back with shaking fingers. This is too much. It's a dress, Elena, not a marriage proposal. Wear it. Make me regret every decision that led to me only having dinner with you instead of... The message cut off. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally. 7 p.m. Don't make me come get you. I spent the day in a strange fog, going through motions without really being present. Rita asked if I was feeling okay. Marco mentioned that I seemed distracted. I smiled and lied, and thought about emerald silk and the way Alessandro had kissed me like I was oxygen and he was drowning. At 6 p.m. I started getting ready. The shower, longer than usual, using the expensive soap Marcus had delivered last week. Hair dried carefully, falling in waves past my shoulders because I had no idea how to do anything fancier. Minimal makeup because I'd never learned more. Mascara, lip gloss, a touch of blush. The dress slid over my skin like water. Cool silk against overheated flesh. It fit perfectly. Of course it did. Hugging curves I'd forgotten I had. Falling to just above my knees. The heels added 3 inches and made my legs look longer, leaner. The earrings caught the light when I moved my head. I stared at myself in the bathroom mirror and didn't recognize the woman looking back. She was elegant, polished, beautiful in a way that Elena Torres from South Boston had never been allowed to be. 3 knocks at 6:58 p.m. I grabbed my phone, force of habit, and walked to the door on unsteady heels. Alessandro stood in the hallway in a black suit that probably cost more than a car, holding a single red rose. His eyes widened fractionally when he saw me, the only sign of surprise he allowed himself. "Christo," he breathed. Then, recovering, "You're beautiful. It's the dress." My voice came out steadier than I felt. "No." He stepped closer, and I caught his scent. Cedar and smoke and something darker underneath. "It's you." The dress just lets everyone else see what I already knew. He offered me the rose. I took it with trembling fingers and our hands brushed. The contact sent electricity up my arm, and from the way his jaw tightened, he felt it too. "Where are we going?" "Nowhere." He gestured behind him, and I noticed for the first time that the door to apartment 2B was open, warm light spilling into the hallway. I had dinner brought here, more private, more safe. "The apartment where you..." "Yes." No apology in his voice, but it's been cleaned. Renovated, actually. New furniture, new everything. You'll never know what happened there. Except I would. I'd always know. But I let him take my arm, let him guide me across the hall. Because refusing felt more dangerous than accepting. The apartment was transformed, where before there'd been sparse furniture and the feel of a place used for business. Now it looked like something from a magazine. Soft lighting from lamps with cream shades. A dining table set for 2 with actual china and crystal. Candles flickering, casting dancing shadows on walls painted a warm gray. "You did all this today?" I asked. "I have people." He pulled out a chair for me, waited until I sat before taking his own seat. "I wanted you comfortable. Wanted this to be... nice." "Why?" The question seemed to surprise him. He poured wine, red, expensive, the bottle label in French, and considered his answer carefully. "Because you deserve nice things, Elena. Because every man before me has taken from you. Your time, your energy, your hope. I want to give instead. You don't even know me. I know enough." He raised his glass to new beginnings and forgotten endings. I clinked my glass against his, the crystal singing. The wine was smooth, complex, probably worth more than my rent. I sipped carefully, hyper-aware of his eyes on me, cataloging my every reaction. "Tell me about your mother," I said, because the silence felt too heavy, too charged. "You said she died in my apartment." His expression shuddered immediately, walls slamming down. "That's not appropriate dinner conversation. Neither is kissing your tenant after murdering someone." The words hung between us, sharp and dangerous. I'd crossed a line. I knew it immediately from the way his hand tightened on his wine glass, the muscle jumping in his jaw. But then, unexpectedly, he laughed. Genuine laughter, startled and warm. Fair point. He set down his glass, leaned back in his chair. What do you want to know? Was she like you? You mean, was she a criminal? His smile held no humor now. No, she was a saint. Married my father, without knowing what he really was. By the time she found out, I was born, and she was trapped. She tried to leave once when I was 5. He found her within hours. After that, he gestured vaguely. She stayed. For me. I'm sorry. Don't be. She taught me everything important. How to read people, how to survive, how to protect what matters. His eyes met mine. She would have liked you. You remind me of her. Strong in ways people underestimate. Before I could respond, there was a knock. Alessandro called something in Italian, and Luca entered carrying covered dishes. He set them down without looking at me, though I felt his disapproval like radiation. When he left, Alessandro lifted the covers. Pasta. Homemade, from the look of it. In a cream sauce with herbs I couldn't name, salad with ingredients that looked too fresh, too perfect. Bread that smelled like heaven. Eat. Alessandro commanded softly. You're too thin. Marcus says you barely touch the groceries I send. I'm not used to... I stopped. How does Marcus know what I eat? Smart girl. He served me pasta, generous portions. I have cameras in the common areas. Not in your apartment. That's your private space. But I can see when you come and go. What you bring in. What you throw away. That's... protective. He cut me off. Not controlling. There's a difference, Cara. You need to learn it. We ate in silence for several minutes, and the food was incredible. Better than anything I'd ever tasted. I forced myself to eat slowly, to use the proper fork, to pretend I belonged at a table like this. Why me? The question escaped before I could stop it. You could rent to anyone, someone from your world who'd understand the rules. Why choose someone so completely out of place? Alessandro set down his fork, studying me with those dark, unreadable eyes. You really don't see it? See what? You walked into that apartment, my mother's apartment, soaked from rain, desperate, scared, and you looked at it like it was a palace, like it was everything you'd ever dreamed of. That gratitude, that wonder. It's rare, precious. He reached across the table, his fingers finding mine, and when I asked your name, you flinched. Like you expected me to hurt you. Expected all men to hurt you. His thumb stroked across my knuckles, gentle despite the violence those hands had committed. I want to be different. I want to be the man who gives you the palace instead of taking everything you have left. That's not love, I whispered. That's possession. In my world, they're the same thing. He pulled his hand back, picked up his wine. But I'm willing to show you the difference. If you let me, and if I don't, then you still have the apartment, still have my protection. I'm not a good man, Elena, but I keep my promises. You're safe here, whether you choose me or not. The words should have been comforting. Instead, they terrified me because they implied a choice I wasn't ready to make. Choose him or don't, but either way, I was his. Either way, I was trapped in this beautiful cage he'd built. We finished dinner making careful small talk. My childhood, lonely. His work, unspecified. Books we'd read. Surprisingly similar taste. He was charming when he wanted to be. Funny in a dark way. Intelligent in a manner that made me feel seen rather than stupid. It would be so easy to fall for him. That was the most dangerous thing of all. At 9 p.m., he walked me back to my door. The hallway felt too narrow, too intimate, his body close enough that I could feel his heat. "Thank you for dinner," I said, proud of how steady my voice sounded. "Thank you for wearing the dress, for saying yes, for not running." He leaned in, and my breath caught, but he only pressed his lips to my forehead. Chaste, almost brotherly. "Sleep well, Cara. Tomorrow we'll..." The building shook. A massive boom from somewhere below, loud enough to rattle the windows. Alessandro moved before I could process what was happening, shoving me against the wall, his body covering mine, one hand protecting my head while the other went to his waistband, to a gun I hadn't known he was carrying. Footsteps pounding up the stairs. Luca appeared, gun drawn, blood on his shirt. "Boss, we have a problem. The Antonellis, They found the building. They're here. Alessandro's expression went cold, deadly. He kept his body between me and Luca, kept me pinned and protected all at once. How many? At least 8, maybe more. They breached the first floor, took out Marco and Stefano. Casualties? Both alive. For now, another explosion. Closer this time. The lights flickered. Alessandro pulled me tighter against him, and I felt his heart hammering against my chest. The only sign of fear he'd allow himself. Elena. His voice in my ear, urgent. I need you to listen very carefully. Do exactly what I say. No questions. No hesitation. Your life depends on it. I nodded against his chest, too terrified to speak. Good girl. He released me, but only enough to grab my hand. We're going to the roof. There's a fire escape on the next building. Luca will take you down, get you somewhere safe. What about you? I'm staying. This is my building. My family. I don't run. He pushed me toward Luca. Go. Now. Alessandro. He kissed me. Hard and desperate and final, like he was memorizing the taste of me. When he pulled back, his eyes held something that looked almost like regret. If I don't make it, the building is yours. Paid in full. Everything in my office, documents, money, keys, it's all yours. Luca knows. He'll help you. You can't. I can. I am. He released my hand. Run. Elena, don't look back. Luca's hand closed around my wrist like a vice, dragging me toward the stairs that led up, not down. I stumbled in the heels, catching myself on the railing as gunfire erupted below, sharp cracks that echoed through the building like thunder. Move, Luca hissed. Those shoes, take them off, now. I kicked off the heels, leaving them abandoned on the stairs. The concrete was cold beneath my bare feet as we climbed, taking 2 steps at a time. Behind us, more gunfire. Alessandro's voice, commanding in Italian. A scream cut short. He's going to die down there, I gasped, my lungs burning. He's going to kill every last one of them, Luca corrected, but not if he's worried about you. Move faster. We burst through the roof access door into cold November night. Boston spread before us, lights twinkling like stars fallen to earth, beautiful and utterly indifferent to the violence happening beneath them. Luca pulled me across the roof, toward the edge where another building stood close enough to jump. Maybe 4 feet of empty air between us and safety. No, I said, stopping. No, I can't. You can and you will. He grabbed my shoulders, forcing me to look at him. Listen to me. Alessandro Vitale is the most dangerous man in Boston. He's survived 3 assassination attempts, 2 gang wars, and more betrayals than I can count. Those men down there, they're already dead. They just don't know it yet. But if you're here when the shooting stops, if there's even a chance you could be hurt, it'll break his focus. It'll get him killed. Do you understand? Tears streamed down my face, cold in the night air. I don't want him to die. Then jump. Luca moved to the roof's edge, testing the distance. I'll go first. When I say jump, you jump. Don't think, don't look down. Just trust me. He backed up 3 steps and ran, launching himself across the gap with practiced ease. He landed on the other building's roof in a crouch, immediately turning back to me. Your turn, Elena. Now. I looked back at the roof access door. I could go back down, find Alessandro. At least die with him instead of running like a coward. As if reading my thoughts, Luca shouted. If you go back down there, the first thing he'll do is get you out. It'll distract him for the 3 seconds it takes for someone to put a bullet in his head. Is that what you want? To be the reason he dies? The words hit like a physical blow. I backed up, the silk dress whispering against my thighs, and ran. For a moment I was airborne, suspended between buildings, between one life and another. Then Luca's hands caught me, steadying me as I landed hard on the opposite roof. Good girl, he said, and it sounded wrong coming from him. Those were Alessandro's words. Fire escape. Down. Go. We descended rapidly, my feet screaming with each metal step. 4 floors down. 3, 2. Behind us, the brownstone erupted with sound. More gunfire, breaking glass. A man's scream that cut off abruptly. I forced myself not to look, not to think about Alessandro in the middle of that violence. We hit the ground in an alley that smelled of garbage and rain. Luca pulled out his phone, typed rapidly. Within 30 seconds, a black car pulled up, and a man I'd never seen before jumped out. "Take her to the safe house in Cambridge," Luca ordered. "Stay with her until you hear from me or the boss. No one else. Understand?" The man nodded. Luca turned to me, his expression softer than I'd ever seen it. "He'll come for you. When this is over, he'll come. Just wait for him. Please." "What if he doesn't?" My voice broke. "What if—" "He will." Luca squeezed my shoulder once, almost gently. "I've known Alessandro since we were kids. I've never seen him look at anyone the way he looks at you. He'll move heaven and hell to get back to you. Just be there when he does." Then he was gone, running back toward the building, toward the gunfire, toward whatever hell was unfolding inside. The driver, silent, professional, opened the car door. I climbed in, still barefoot, still wearing the emerald dress that Alessandro had chosen because it matched my eyes. The car pulled away from the curb, and I twisted in my seat, watching the brownstone recede into the distance. Shadows moved in the windows, muzzle flashes lit the darkness. And somewhere in that building, Alessandro was fighting for his life. Because of me, to protect me. The safe house was a condo in Cambridge, anonymous and sterile. The driver checked every room before letting me inside, then stationed himself by the door with a gun in his lap. He didn't speak, didn't offer comfort, just waited. I paced the living room in bare feet, the emerald dress incongruous against the modern furniture. Minutes crawled by like hours. My phone, Alessandro's phone, stayed silent. I clutched it anyway, willing it to ring, to buzz, to give me any sign that he was alive. 1 hour passed. 2, 3. At 1:47 a.m., the phone finally rang. I answered before the first ring finished, my hands shaking so badly I nearly dropped it. "Elena." Alessandro's voice, rough and exhausted and alive. "Are you hurt?" The words tumbled out. "Are you okay? What happened?" Luca said, "I'm fine. Minor injuries. Nothing serious." A pause. "The threat is neutralized. All of them. You're safe now." "Where are you?" "Cleaning up. It'll take a few more hours. I need you to stay where you are until morning." "Can you do that for me? I don't want to stay here. I stopped, unsure how to finish that sentence. "I want to see you. I want to know you're really okay. I want to stop feeling like my heart was torn from my chest." "What do you want, Kara?" His voice dropped lower, intimate despite the distance. "Tell me." "I want you here. Safe. With me." Silence on the other end, broken only by his breathing. Finally, "I'll be there by dawn. I promise. Try to sleep. I can't. Then wait for me. I'll be there soon." He hung up. I stood holding the dead phone, staring at it like it might somehow bring him back faster. The driver brought me water I didn't drink, offered food I couldn't eat. I sat on the couch wrapped in a blanket someone had left there, watching the windows lighten from black to gray to pale blue as dawn approached. At 6:23 a.m. there was a knock on the door. The driver checked the peephole, then opened it immediately, stepping aside. Alessandro walked in, and he looked like he'd been through a war. His suit was ruined, torn, blood-stained, the shirt hanging open where buttons had been ripped away. A cut above his left eyebrow had been cleaned but not stitched. Bruises bloomed along his jaw. His knuckles were split and swollen. He moved stiffly, favoring his left side. But he was alive. He was here. I stood without meaning to, the blanket falling away. We stared at each other across the room. Him looking like death. Me in my beautiful emerald dress now wrinkled and ruined. The driver slipped out silently, closing the door behind him. 8 men, Alessandro said quietly. The Antonelli family sent 8 men to kill me, to take my territory, my business, everything I've built. Do you know what their mistake was? I shook my head, unable to speak. They thought I had something to lose. They were right. I did. He crossed the room slowly, each step deliberate despite the pain. But what they didn't understand is that makes me more dangerous, not less. Because now I have something worth fighting for, worth killing for. He stopped in front of me, close enough to touch but not touching. You asked me once what I wanted from you. I couldn't answer then because I didn't know. But tonight, when those men came, when I realized they might hurt you to get to me, I knew. His hand came up, cupping my face with bruised, bloodied fingers. I want everything, Elena. Your mornings and your nights, your laughter and your tears, your fear and your trust. I want you in my home, in my bed, in my life, completely, permanently. Alessandro, let me finish. His thumb stroked my cheek, impossibly gentle. I'm not a good man. I've done terrible things. I'll do more terrible things to keep you safe. I can't give you normal. Can't give you safe or uncomplicated or easy, but I can give you everything else. Protection, comfort, a life where you never have to be invisible again. Tears streamed down my face. That sounds like another pretty cage. No. He leaned his forehead against mine, his breath warm on my lips. It's a fortress, and you'll be its queen, not its prisoner. You want to work at the diner? Work at the diner. Want to go to school? I'll pay for it. Want space? I'll give it to you. The only non-negotiable is your safety. That, I'll never compromise on. What if I say no? Then I'll be devastated, but you'll still have the apartment, still have my protection. I meant what I said, Kara. You're safe with me regardless of what you choose. But I'm hoping... He pulled back slightly, those dark eyes searching mine. I'm hoping you'll choose me anyway. I looked at him. This beautiful, dangerous man who'd killed for me, who'd given me a palace and called me his, who'd promised to be different, and had somehow kept that promise. Every rational part of my brain screamed to run, to take the apartment and the protection and keep my distance from the violence that followed him like a shadow. But my heart, that treacherous organ, wanted something else entirely. The men who came tonight, I said slowly. Are there more? More families who'll try to hurt you? To hurt me? Possibly. Probably. He didn't lie, didn't soften it. This life, it's dangerous. There are always enemies, always threats. I can minimize them, but I can't eliminate them entirely. And if I say yes, if I choose this, choose you, what happens? Then you become untouchable, because anyone who hurts you will face something worse than death. They'll face me. His hand tightened on my face, and I'll make sure everyone knows it. You'll wear my ring, carry my name, have my protection written into every deal, every treaty, every agreement I make. You'll be sacred, Kara, untouchable. Your ring? My heart stuttered. Eventually, when you're ready. When you trust that this isn't just possession or obsession. When you understand that what I feel for you is... He stopped, struggling with words. It's the closest thing to love a man like me can manage. I reached up, covering his hand with mine. His knuckles were torn, bruised from violence committed in my name. I should have been horrified, should have recoiled from the blood and brutality. Instead, I turned my head and kissed his palm. Alessandro's breath caught, his eyes darkened, and suddenly, his mouth was on mine, desperate, claiming, a kiss that tasted like blood and smoke and promises he'd kill to keep. I kissed him back just as desperately, my hands fisting in his ruined shirt, pulling him closer despite the obvious pain it caused him. Is that a yes? He breathed against my lips. It's an I'll try, I whispered back. I'll try to trust you, to believe you, to build something in the middle of all this darkness. That's enough. He kissed me again, softer this time. That's more than enough. We'll figure out the rest together. He pulled back, wincing. I noticed fresh blood seeping through his shirt along his ribs. You need a doctor. I need sleep. And you. In that order. He glanced at the bedroom door. Will you sleep next to me? Just sleep. I need to know you're there, that you're real, that I didn't lose you tonight. I took his hand, careful of the split knuckles, and led him to the bedroom. He stripped off the ruined suit with stiff movements, revealing more bruises, more cuts. A life written in violence across scarred skin. I helped him with the shirt when his ribs protested too much. We lay down together on top of the covers. Him in boxers, me still in the emerald dress because changing felt like too much effort. He pulled me against his chest, one arm wrapped around my waist, his face buried in my hair. "Thank you," he murmured, already half asleep. "For not running, for staying, for choosing to try. Thank you for coming back." I laced my fingers through his damaged ones. "For keeping your promise, always." His voice was fading, exhaustion finally claiming him. "I'll always come back to you, Kara. Always keep you safe. Always." He fell asleep mid-sentence, his breathing evening out, his grip on me loosening slightly but never releasing. I lay awake watching dawn paint the ceiling in shades of gold, listening to Alessandro's heartbeat, steady, strong, alive, and thought about the choice I'd made. It wasn't a fairy tale. There would be no happily ever after, just a series of dangerous todays that we'd navigate together. There would be more violence, more threats, more nights wondering if he'd come home. But there would also be this, his arms around me, his protection surrounding me, his love, or whatever approximation of it he could offer, given freely and fiercely. I'd gone to look at an apartment and found a monster, but he was my monster now, and somehow, impossibly, that felt like the safest thing in the world. 3 months later, I woke in our bedroom. Alessandro had insisted I move into his penthouse apartment, the one that took up the entire 4th floor of the brownstone, to find him already awake, watching me with those dark eyes that still made my heart race. "Morning, Kara." "Morning." I stretched, and the ring on my left hand caught the light. He'd given it to me 2 weeks ago, emerald to match the dress, set in platinum. Not quite a proposal, but a promise of one, when I was ready, when I truly understood that this was choice, not captivity. "I have something to show you." He pulled me from bed, impatient as a child on Christmas morning. "Come." He led me to his office, the room I rarely entered, full of paperwork and computer screens and evidence of the empire he ran. But today it looked different. The desk had been pushed aside, and in its place stood an easel holding a framed document. I stepped closer, reading. It was a deed. To the entire building at 247 Beacon Hill, made out in my name. "Alessandro, I can't." "You can. You will." He wrapped his arms around me from behind, resting his chin on my shoulder. "It's legally yours now, paid in full. If something happens to me, if my enemies come, if everything falls apart, this is yours. Your safety net. Your escape route if you need it." I turned in his arms. "I'm not going anywhere. I know." He smiled, and it reached his eyes this time, genuine happiness that transformed his face into something almost innocent. "But I need you to have the option, need to know that you stay because you want to, not because you have no choice." "You're still giving me a cage," I said. "Just a prettier one." "No, Kara." He kissed my forehead, my nose, my lips. "I'm giving you wings. Whether you use them to fly away or to stay, that's entirely up to you." I looked at the deed, at my name in black ink, official and real. Then I looked at Alessandro, scarred, dangerous, devoted Alessandro who'd killed for me, who'd given me everything he had, who'd somehow taught me the difference between possession and protection. "I choose to stay," I said firmly. "Not because I have to, because I want to, because somewhere between fear and safety, between control and freedom, I fell in love with you." His eyes widened. The first time I'd said the words, "Elena." "I know you can't say it back. I know your version of love looks different than most people's, but this..." I gestured between us, at the building that was now mine, at the life we were building together. "This is enough. You are enough." He kissed me then, deep and thorough, and I tasted salt. Tears, though whether his or mine I couldn't say. When we finally broke apart, he pressed his forehead to mine. "I may not have the words," he whispered. "But know this. There is nothing I wouldn't do, no line I wouldn't cross, no price I wouldn't pay to keep you safe, to keep you happy, to keep you mine. If that's not love, then I don't know what is." "That's love," I confirmed. "Dangerous, possessive, slightly terrifying love, but love nonetheless." He laughed, the sound rare and precious. Only you could make that sound romantic. Only you could make captivity feel like freedom. We stood there in his office, wrapped in each other, as morning light streamed through the windows and the city woke below. I thought about the girl who'd climbed those brownstone steps 3 months ago. Desperate, invisible, alone. She would never have recognized the woman I'd become. But then again, that girl had never been seen the way Alessandro saw me, had never been protected the way he protected me, had never been loved in his fierce, dangerous, all-consuming way, the way he loved me. I went to look at an apartment and found a home. Found safety in the arms of danger. Found freedom in the one man who could have caged me, but chose instead to give me wings. And if those wings were clipped slightly, if my freedom came with guards and cameras and a phone that tracked my every movement, well, some cages were worth staying in, especially when the door was open and you chose to remain anyway. Come back to bed, Alessandro murmured against my neck. The world can wait a few more hours. The world can wait forever, I corrected, taking his hand. As long as I have you. You have me, Kara. He pulled me close, and I felt safe despite the danger, free despite the protection, loved despite the impossibility. For as long as you'll keep me, you have me. Completely, irrevocably, eternally. And in that moment, in the arms of my beautiful monster, I finally understood what it meant to be both captive and free. To be possessed, to be cherished, entirely his, and somehow, miraculously, still completely myself. The apartment had just been the beginning. The real home was this, his arms, his protection, his dark and dangerous love. And I would choose it, choose him, every day for the rest of my life.